Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Black Mirror 2. Where were we? Let's see. I guess we weren't here at the autosave. I think we were right here after that autosave, where we got on the boat and we did a whole section that could have been its own separate chapter, or the beginning of chapter 3. We're in some weird position here, because we freed Angelina. We proved that it was this guy. We ended up with a ring. We've got some breadcrumbs, so I'm going to see if I can get some more bread. We have a folder showing that this guy was spying on Angelina. We have photos showing that this guy was spying on me. We have wire cutters still, a ballpoint pen. I wonder almost if the ball pen is only in our inventory to prove that we have something to write in our diary, which, I mean, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's really confusing though as far as why we are still in this city.
I'm not gonna feel any better if I stuff my pockets full of bread.
Like, his only issue here is his mother's still in the hospital, or maybe he's dying right now and I'm supposed to run to the hospital. Is that actually my goal? It's been longer than it should have been as far as what my latest task was supposed to be. Like, I don't even have a latest task, so the game, I think, just directly told me to go to visit my mother, and one assumes that I'm gonna visit the mother and then she's gonna say something telling me to go to the Black Mirror Manor, and or telling me not to do it, and I just am gonna obstinately do it anyways. Less sound effects, certainly. Flipping pages. Like, I honestly don't think there's another thing to take a picture of in this area. And, like, so if I missed anything, like, maybe we'll be able to always come back to this area. I guess that's a possibility. But we totally need to leave. We're done with this area. Even if there was new stuff, new conversation, new people in every single building, doing that right now implies a real problem with this game. Just a lack of scenes, and a lack of interesting scenes, even compared to the first game.
Mr. Michaels, it's, the doctor would like to speak to you.
Has something happened?
Just go through, please.
Let's see. The doctor would like to speak to you. Has something happened? No, nothing's happened. That's why the doctor wants to speak to you. Like, so if she's dead, that would probably be the best way for this to go. Because then we lose our attachment to this city and we can move on. I did want to say, compared to Black Mirror 1 though, there is this issue of the story not being
Darren,
where's my mom?
as long as the first game.
Your mom's heart failed this morning.
What? No, that's impossible.
I really am very sorry.
Mom!
Hello, this is Rebecca Michaels. Unfortunately, I'm not at home at the moment. Leave me a message and I'll get back to you.
Darren? Darren, are you there? He's here, Darren. Reginald Boris is here. I went to Willow Creek. I couldn't resist. Please forgive me. I found out a few things about this place. It seems there's something like a conspiracy here, and I think Reginald Boris is part of it. I saw him today, and now... No. No! Go! Ah! Darren! Help me!
Hello? Hello? Angelina!
So they're moving the story rather quickly. There's better ways that could have been written, certainly, to move it a little bit faster. So we're seeing all of these scenes, and when we saw these scenes in the first game, they were indications of the memory of the killer, which probably still is somehow Darren. Like, you're kind of thinking that. But I don't know how that really would be the case. You have to take the assumption that a lot of what we're seeing here is not true and just the visions of a crazy person, if you're still putting Darren as the killer. Which is possible. It could be that there is no Angelina, there is no Reginald Boris. Alright, they're moving us. Good. That's the right move. Doesn't particularly look like there's going to be more than maybe one other location. I wouldn't be surprised if there's no other locations. No animation at all for that scene, so they paid a voice actor without animating
This is
anything.
The one and only hotel in this godforsaken place. I had to change trains in London and then sit for another 45 minutes in a cab. And now here, I'm in the middle of nowhere. The village of Willow Creek itself is a bit further down the road. But I ought to take a look around here first. Angelina must have checked into this hotel.
Well, I guess I didn't think this through or expect this. This is the psychiatric hospital from the first game, but enough years apparently have passed that they remodeled it and turned it into a hotel. So every location in the first game is coming back with a new paint job over it. Interesting. Several of the items that I had in my inventory, like the pen, are gone now. The folder is also gone. The photographs are gone. I just have the ring and the breadcrumbs. So apparently I am going to use breadcrumbs at some point. I guess it would make sense to look at things first and then try to take a picture of them, because if I can unlock something with a picture...
A large bird bath made from imitation marble. It's full of water and I can't see a damn bird for miles. Now, does a bird bath in a land where it rains constantly actually make sense?
Interesting observation. We also don't have the fast travel postcard anymore.
A wet, uncomfortable, and somewhat shabby-looking wooden bench with the paint slowly flaking off it.
I feel like there definitely was room for a gimmick here, where you could have played as the girl for the second half of the game and gotten rid of this bad voice acting.
The bench is wet. I'm not sitting there.
There is also just a matter of, I don't think Darren is written well as a character. Even if he's voice acted well in other languages.
Gordon's Palace have just been simply printed onto the awning. Cheap. The awning offers a little shelter from the rain at least. Mind you, it's still unpleasant standing here outside when there are dry, heated rooms waiting inside. 3 flags hanging here. England, Great Britain, and the European Union. The last one's gotta be there, just for the foreign tourists. Ugh. The flags look like they've been hanging there for years. Pretty stained and bleached out. Makes a real nice impression.
I'm just looking at everything because I imagine if I can exhaust everything here now, we'll not have to come back and do this again.
Wow, the ivy must be at least 100 years old. It's already climbed up the whole building.
And this angle for the hospital that this was is slightly less. Like, I think in the first game we could have walked this way and seen the gate. They did show a lot of gates in the first game for not a lot of reasons.
Shame that I don't have to secretly get up to the first floor. The ivy would be an ideal ladder substitute.
One assumes at some point that will be the case. Is that I'll need to sneak up. Doesn't seem like there's anything to do with this flag. There's a window, there's a pile of leaves, and there's a bird bath still.
The hotel lobby's in there behind the tall windows. Very grand for such a small country hotel.
We're in a weird position because of the fact that the game has effectively restarted the murder mystery. Like, we already know who did it as far as the first murder, so now there needs to be a second murder, and we're going to assume that the second murder happens by Reginald Boris whenever it does happen. So maybe there's a room for a twist that there's a second murderer, probably Darren or Angelina. Otherwise, we're moving away from being a murder mystery into just...
A gardener must have raked them together from off the lawn.
It could just be a conspiracy mystery game from this point.
That pile's not been here for long. The leaves are soaking wet on the outside, but they look drier underneath. The rain hasn't made everything wet through.
So I'm gonna need leaves at some point. I don't know if a conspiracy mystery story works greatly. You can see that now it's moving a little bit more than I would have thought you would have to the left. Ideally, in a point-and-click adventure, I'd like to keep scenes down to one screen.
A steel-framed conservatory. It's quite obvious that it's a newer addition to the rest of the building.
There should be a graveyard still in the back, unless they dug up all the bodies.
There's a few tables and chairs in the conservatory. I would imagine they use it as a dining room. Right now it looks deserted.
Like, back around here there should be a graveyard, so what did they do with that?
I can't see anything interesting, and the basin is much too heavy to move.
Was there perhaps a sewer entrance under there at some point? Maybe. So that the game might be teasing players who played the first game. Of course, this game came out, what was it, 5 years later? 8 years later?
Oh, a new guest.
How many
Welcome
people would
to
even
Golden's
remember
Palace.
it that
My
well?
name is Murray.
Hello. I'm looking for a young woman who's spending some time here. Maybe you've seen her?
Yes, maybe I have, but maybe I haven't. You have to understand, this is a discreet hotel. I can't talk about my guests.
So, she's
Do we really need
As
two
I said already,
snotty
a discreet
hotel runners? Clearly, this is the...
one could say.
It's off season right now. It'll get busier. This is the best hotel in Willow Creek and a place with history. This was once the sanatorium of the dreaded Robert Gordon, the Dr. Frankenstein of Willow Creek.
Oh yeah?
Yes, yes. He was the uncle of Samuel Gordon, the maniac murderer. Everyone thought squeaky clean Sir Robert was a respectable doctor. But in reality, he conducted illegal experiments on the sanatorium's patients. Very nasty goings on.
And then someone thought it would make a great hotel.
Of course, of course. Immediately after the murders 12 years ago, the tourists came in throngs. They wanted to see everything. But where could they stay the night? There wasn't a hotel. So, I bought this building. The patients were taken away straight after the incident, of course. Some also escaped. So, anyway, I bought the house, had it renovated, and now it's the best hotel in the place. How many nights did you say you wanted?
Actually, I just wanted to know if you've seen this young lady. Her name is Angelina Morgan.
Now, I can't talk to strangers about guests. The hotel's reputation, you see.
I see.
Having the same
And
conversation
if I were a
twice.
guest myself, then...
Then, of course, we could have a little chat about who else has a room here at the moment.
Alright then. A room, please. For, let's say, 2 nights to start with.
Very well. That'll be £90.
It's about, I guess that's about right. It's pretty expensive considering it's a middle of the nowhere hotel, but it does have a monopoly.
So, what about Angelina? Is she here?
The young lady checked in here a few days ago. Room 13, right next to yours, sir. However, I haven't seen her since yesterday morning.
Thank you. Room 13, that's down this corridor?
Yes, sir.
How
Your
would you
room
know
is
that?
number 12. You do, of course, understand that I can't let you into the lady's room. As you know, the hotel has a reputation to uphold.
Huh. This takes me a step closer. I know Angelina was here. Perhaps I'll find some clues as to what she found out, and who didn't like it.
This is kind of ridiculous. We're doing the exact same thing we've already done. Clearly, this hotel and this character are just the exact same hotel and character that would have been that we've already seen. And at some point, the producer, the writer said, well, actually, we need to take half of the content and half of the puzzles and put them in Willow Creek instead of in America. And thus they just doubled up on unimportant animation. And then, yeah, I would like to get back to the thing. If it really was even 5 years between Black Mirror 1 and Black Mirror 2, I believe that's right. I think Black Mirror 1 was 2003. I think Black Mirror 2 was 2008. The one person who would really recognize this layout is me, who only played Black Mirror 1 less than 6 months ago for the first time. And I still don't really recognize this layout that much. It seems so lazy. I kind of get what they're doing, and I'm not really shouldn't complain too much about it. But if we find that all of Willow Creek are literally just animators paid to trace over the old animations and do slight modifications to the old buildings, that's not going to be great. It would explain why we spent 2 chapters in the new areas, because they wanted new content and they wanted to show the new content first. But if this really is a 5-act, 5-chapter game like I think it is, and it's all in Willow Creek, this is going to get really boring really fast. Or just repetitive, if not boring.
The weather still hasn't got any better. It's just been raining the whole time.
Let's see. I'm trying to show the hot spots. Let's look at the trolley.
That's one of those things they use in big hotels to carry cases on. I find it rather hard to imagine them having hotel porters here.
Let's grab some dishes. Let's grab a flask. Just grab everything in your standard point-and-click adventure
Murray
game.
seems to have just been eating something. I'm guessing that he's the only employee in his hotel, so he can't just go and leave his position at the counter to go and eat. The knife hasn't been used. I'll take it. Maybe I can still find a use for it.
So, yeah, I assume we're going to run into a lot of puzzles, and it would be logical to just have all of this stuff. If the guy's going to eat, why wouldn't he not just stand at the desk and eat, or sit at the desk? Why would he come over here? and eat. That seems a little weird.
It's probably crockery that was intended for the guests. I can't see anything special about it. A bottle of schnapps. Maybe I could grab it while Murray's not looking.
So am I supposed to actually look at this guy and see if he's not looking and then grab it when he's looking the other way?
Voila! A bottle of alcohol.
I did it. It worked. Yeah, if you were gonna eat behind a counter and drop crumbs and maybe attract insects or rodents, it still would be better to do that than it would be to drop crumbs and maybe attract insects or rodents in your front area. I guess I'm probably getting hung up on an unimportant detail there.
A classic dark brown leather armchair. The arms are worn somewhat. It's seen better days for sure.
Yeah, it's almost as if it's trying to tell me he has no stool back there, or couldn't get a stool back there for some reason. Which is probably just an unimportant overlook and overthought of the writers
Until
and
I found
producers.
Angelina, I don't have any time to rest.
Let's look at the souvenirs. Now I'm assuming I don't have to take a picture.
Cheap plastic mask of Samuel Gordon. Toy knife with bloodstained blade. And the worst thing is that you can bet that some of my fellow humans actually buy this stuff.
Like, you know, wasting a lot of time, a lot of things to click on.
And what's this thing supposed to be? The original soul key. Summon dark forces and scare the pants off your friends. Lights up in 3 different colors. Gruesome sound effects. Hellish fun. Batteries not included. I can't get my head around it.
Yeah, he wouldn't even know what the soul keys are. And he said that the murders happened 12 years ago. So this guy's in college. So you're talking a 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, maybe 25-year-old at oldest. 12 years ago would have put him at 13 years old. That doesn't line up with when the murders happened. So it seems like they either said the wrong date in this conversation, or they're trying to say that 30 years ago, which was the timeline, and kind of makes a little bit more sense. Whatever we saw in that first cutscene, that date compared to the date right now, both of which would have been in the very first episode of the series, and I don't remember. That seemed like 30 years, and that would make more sense. Because my mother would have to have been pregnant when Samuel Gordon thought that his wife was burnt in the fire. If my mother is Samuel Gordon's wife. Maybe there was a break between the fire and the murders. I know there was a break, actually. So, was there a 13-year break there? And so, was the character that I'm playing right now 13 years old in the United States when the murders happened? And maybe that's the case. I guess that might make sense.
I'd rather chop my hand off than buy this plastic crap from China and speed up global warming and the demise of mankind.
Do we really need all of this ranting? I find it can be sometimes an indicator of other mental issues if people are ranting about every single social problem in the world. That it seems like sometimes that indicates an underlying mental issue. We may find out that's the case with Darren. We're really not getting anywhere in this game. I need to move faster.
A
I'm just
stand with what looks like
wasting
tasteless
time
postcards from
looking at
tourists.
stuff.
They show either pictures of the village or blood-stained knives. Here's one with a screaming woman on it.
So,
Huh. Willow Creek. I was here and survived. Willow Creek makes your blood freeze. Willow Creek, home of murderers. Unbelievable.
he also mentioned that some of the patients escaped the sanitarium, so maybe one of those patients is also a red herring for a potential murderer we see.
A whole row of old-fashioned lockboxes. Although they're only made of wood, they look like they're still tricky to break open. A whole row of old-fashioned...
So we'll have to deal with that later.
One of the keys belongs to Angelina's room. It's number 13. But I can't get my hands on it while Murray's standing at the counter.
Yeah, same puzzle. The other thing I would like to see is how many other keys are missing. I see one here and one here. So it seems like every other room should be unoccupied.
One of the keys belongs to Angelina's.
So we now know the lockboxes and the keys are important things. Postcards, souvenirs are important things. We have a telephone, we have a guest book. They've combined the souvenir shop from in the previous section now with the hotel in the previous section, and tried to speed things up a little bit. And generally when you're making a point and click adventure puzzle, that's kind of how you do it. You say a hotel, a souvenir shop, just very generic things, and then you let the writers write those generic things into the story. And usually the producers or the writers of the game do it so that there's only one hotel and one souvenir shop in the game. That makes a little bit more sense.
Angelina checked in here and is staying in room 13. The guest book probably can't tell me much more.
To tell you who else
Even if
is
there
in
was
there.
something interested in the guest book, I'm sure Murray wouldn't give me a look. The hotel's reputation, you understand? Oh man. An old-fashioned telephone. It's probably meant to be classic, but to be honest, it's just old.
Alright, let's see if we can take a picture of that. Take a picture of that. Doing the work early, certainly, in a lot of things, but playing video games can be slow and boring, but it'll...
A big houseplant in a hefty flower pot. No idea what type it is. I know nothing about them.
It makes for a better escalation of gameplay and story. What we don't want to have happen more than anything is what happened in Broken Mirror 1, where I was completely confused. I felt like I had exhausted every option and I had to go to a walkthrough. I think the game is going to be easier than the first game in that case, so I'm hoping, and it seems likely, that we won't have any scenario like that. So unless I'm supposed to take pictures of the plants.
I can't find anything exciting. The plants don't look all that happy. But like I've said, I don't know much about either botany or the psyche of plants.
Psych, wouldn't that be psyche? So maybe we'll poison the plant and distract him later. Ideally, I'd like games to introduce
Room 13.
one area
That's Angelina's room.
versus introducing multiple areas all at the same time. Broken
That's
Sword.
my room, number 12. First I'll get rid of this rucksack, and then I need to find a way to get into Angelina's room.
Like, Broken Sword kind of had a little bit of that. They didn't want you to leave the
That's better.
Black Mirror. Man, have I been calling this game Broken Sword? I think I have. Apologies for that. Black Mirror for the first little section of Black Mirror 1, they didn't want you to leave the Black Mirror Manor. And then they eventually introduced the city. And then they eventually introduced the church. And then they eventually introduced several other things. I think I probably said that out of order too. But this feels like if I walked out the front door and clicked to Willow Creek, I could probably go to the city right now. There's a wall here that wasn't there before.
The wall doesn't look like it belongs here. Looks temporary to me. It's pretty dark back there. But it looks like the passage simply hasn't been renovated.
Yeah. So either that's cheap animation or we're gonna get down in that area.
I'd like to guess that this wall's been put up just to prevent the guests in the front part of the hotel from being disturbed while the restoration work's still going on in the back. Perhaps Murray ran out of cash, or he saw that he didn't need any more rooms. Whatever the case, the renovation didn't get finished.
So these were the sanitary rooms. So they were tiny little cells. How are you going to make a hotel room out of that? And maybe what you do is maybe there was another cell door here that was closed off and you knock down walls, but that doesn't particularly explain this unless it goes deeper. This has all been renovated, but it's the same layout. I don't know how much work you really save by using the same layouts. Maybe in the programming it does save some work because the items and the geometry
crime
are
stories,
the same.
Poetry collections, fairy tales, horror stories. Just the thing for a relaxing night in a hotel. Unfortunately, I'm not going to have one of those.
Yeah, for the most part, everything we see here is just a background image. So you could pretty easily do a mod where you change the background image and it would look like the first game. And since everything that you interact with is for the most part in the same place, that would be moderately easy reprogramming. But why did they need, with 5 years, why would you need to do it cheaply? I know Black Mirror as a series didn't catch on fire. I never had even heard of it until very recently. But this game does feel like it's done cheaper than it should have been.
A whole load of good books. But I don't know how they're supposed to help me in my search for Angelina.
So, yeah. We're running into a lot of things that clearly are going to make sense when we know what the puzzle is.
A wooden clock with a glass cover and some carving on it. Huh. What's that? The clock's just an imitation. It can't be wound up. Probably a cheap electronic clock with batteries. I can't get it off. It's screwed on. I need a screwdriver or something like that to get it off the bookcase.
Okay, so at least we know what we're gonna do now.
Yep, that's how it's done.
Use the knife as a screwdriver. Of course, he could have helped us a little bit by saying flathead screws.
I've got them. 2 1.5 volt batteries.
So I don't know why I need batteries.
Lying on the glass table. Maybe a service for the guests.
See what the newspaper says.
Oh no, can't be. The paper's already several weeks old. Probably so little going on here that Murray hardly ever gets back here to tidy up. Nothing's older than yesterday's paper, but I don't have to read it. I think I'll just take a few pages.
So we've got a newspaper that's immediately put the newspaper under the door, poke the key that's in the keyhole in the back of the door out with a different key or a knife, and then when the key on the other side of the door falls on the floor, the newspaper will be there so you can drag it under there. a very, very common gag that isn't really done these days because locks don't work that way anymore. Yeah, for good reason. I guess I can go in my room before we try this.
That's my room. Like all the rooms here, a converted cell. It doesn't really feel all that friendly, and it's rather uncared for. Apart from the price, there's nothing much here that's first class.
Yeah. 90 pounds is roughly, if about $130. $130 for 2 nights in a hotel is not insanely high, but it also is not what you would expect to pay.
Angelina's room's locked. I need to get hold of the key somehow.
It's not something you'd expect to pay for a middle of the nowhere hotel. Yeah, so there's nothing here. I guess I need to get the key a different way. So this newspaper's got something else to do it.
By the looks of it, I'd say it's a halfway serious local rag. Whatever. Probably not worth reading.
Let's see. Let's just immediately combine
I
these
might
two.
as well pour the alcohol into my pocket. A small bottle with some serious alcohol in it. Murray's supposed to tip this stuff in his tea.
Just wanted to see if I could make a Molotov cocktail to start with. And no, I can't. It's an ashtray.
The idea is very much that you sit yourself in this armchair, read one of the books from over there, while quietly smoking a pipe or a cigar. Judging by the ashtray, it looks like that hasn't happened for some time, though. It's sparkling clean. There's only a box of matches lying in it.
So take the matches. Clearly we're going to start a fire. Then start the leaves on fire to distract them.
Matches. Sounds like there's still a few in here.
In the first game there was part of a puzzle was, I believe, blowing out a light bulb here, so this light bulb is still out, or just turned off. There is also some weirdness on the way this looks laid out, because I never really got the understanding of how you came in from the back door versus how you came in from the front door. And so I guess what they're implying is that if you could get through this wall, there would be a way to get to the back door, which would take you to the boiler room and then out of the boiler room into the conservatory. And I'd be surprised if the boiler room changed, but I suppose it's possible. Anything's possible in a crazy game that like this. It's also kind of confusing that this is 12 years of renovation. Like, I would have thought it would have taken a good 30 to 50 years for them to renovate a sanitarium, and use it as a hotel. You'd want at least half a generation to have gone by. Let's see. At this point, there's no reason to climb the ivy, and it's not even an option. And this is where I'm going to start a fire. There's nothing else to look at. I assume they're going to stop me from doing this.
First off, I had to have a look here in the hotel for signs of Angelina's whereabouts. Going straight into the village without any kind of plan doesn't strike me as being a good idea.
Yeah, and it's been about 45 minutes now. Well, it's been about 40 minutes. And 95% of everything we've done has been just looking at things and getting responses to looking at things. We're not even...
No, I'm not doing that.
No, you're not doing that? How about this on that?
No. I'm definitely gonna need the newspaper again, and I don't want to waste the alcohol.
Seriously? I just need to start the leaves on fire. I thought I tried that.
There's no way I could light this heap with a match on its own. The leaves underneath are too damp as well. A match wouldn't even char them.
Breadcrumbs? Like, I couldn't get breadcrumbs back right now. Alcohol. Newspaper. Well, I know what I'm supposed to do. And I'm not a complete psychopath, so I'm not allowed to put the newspaper in the gas tank of the car and start that on fire instead of the leaves.
That pile's not been here for long. The leaves are soaking wet on the outside, but they look drier underneath. The rain hasn't made everything wet through. That pile's not been here.
So am I supposed to use a knife on it? This. So let's. Maybe I needed to use the key on my room? Or maybe I need to talk to the guy. Because I guess we'll talk to the guy first. This is weird. So we have the soul key conversation, Black Mirror, Sanitarium, Angelina conversation. Let's go through the logical order here. We're really interested in Angelina.
What else can you tell me about Angelina?
Don't know. Nice girl. Seems to be out a lot. Always went off for a couple of hours, then back to her room, then out again.
Did you notice anything? Was she nervous? Afraid?
No, not really. She seemed to be a bit stressed. Tense. And always in a hurry. That's just what young people are like.
Did you call the police when she didn't come back last night?
Why should I? She paid up front. Everything's fine.
Oh yeah, everything's fantastic. She might be bleeding to death in the woods or in the hands of violent kidnappers. But she paid up front.
Calm down. Nothing will have happened to her. Absolutely nothing's happened here for 12 years, unfortunately.
So that kind of kills the idea that some lunatic from the sanitarium has been hiding in the forest for 12 years.
What did you say this building used to be?
The old Ashbury Sanatorium. The legendary, the gruesome, the unfathomable sanatorium of the crazy Robert Gordon.
I see.
Sir Robert was
We don't
Samuel
know what
Gordon's
happened to
uncle
Robert.
on his father's side. He lived in the castle and was, of course, like all Gordons, completely insane. He conducted experiments on the patients here in the sanatorium. Illegal experiments. Terrible experiments.
And no one noticed?
He mostly did it at night, alone. He only had one accomplice in the village, Dr. Herman. Both were murdered before their schemes were uncovered. But strange things have been happening since their deaths. People claim to have seen spectral apparitions in these corridors, and sounds that come out of the ground.
Sure, and that's probably written large on the front of your flyers, right? A couple of ghosts would surely be good for business. It's just a shame it's absolute moonshine.
Okay, keep on having the conversation, I guess. Couldn't really care. This information is really for people who didn't play the first game. Which, fair enough, I think you probably could skip the first game and just start playing this one. Although at this point you probably could do better playing the reboot and not playing any of the originals.
What can you tell me about this place?
Willow Creek. It's the nest in which I was born. just like all the others you see around here. No one moves to here. Either you're born here and stay, or you're born here and leave. It can't keep hold of the youngsters anymore. They want to be in the city. The place is dying out.
Is there anything special to see here?
The museum, of course. I was significantly involved in setting it up. It's even on my land, which I've leased for a small, appropriate fee, of course. Go into the village. You won't miss
Why
it.
would he tell
We
us
set it
that?
up once the flow of tourists dried up. You need to offer the people something, after all. We redesigned the rear part of the museum last year. Now it's got a lot more zip. It was my idea. None of the other people in the village have got any idea about business.
And?
You have to speculate to accumulate. You're not going to attract tourists with a couple of clay pots and carpets, are you?
How can you attract tourists?
With a show! You need to give them something. We've got 5 gruesome murders here, an old family full of maniacs, a dark curse. There must be some capital in that.
Doesn't seem to have worked all that well so far.
Alas, no. Many didn't get involved. Said you should let the dead rest in peace. We won't get anywhere like that.
Of course not.
So it kind of
During
feels
the
like
first
this
few
is the
months
only
after the
guy
murders,
that's
it was
even
looking really good.
trying to
The papers wrote about our murders all the time. Loads of
Keep-
free publicity. They came from all over.
keep the
Buses
Gordon
full.
story alive.
But then, well, the hype died down.
Ooh, how tragic. Hey, perhaps a couple of people should be killed every season. Then you'll get more press.
Yeah, you don't need to worry about it. You haven't invested all your savings. But I'll have the last laugh. This place is gonna be on the up again.
Now the weird thing about Black Mirror in the first game is it seemed like all the Gordons were filthy rich for no real reason. Like, never gonna have to work a day in their life if they didn't want to. So Dr. Gordon was only a doctor because he wanted to, it seemed. Where all that money went is an interesting question. Like, who is in charge of Black Mirror now? Is there even a Gordon in Willow Creek still? Are they filthy rich? Or has everybody moved on and gone somewhere else? Or just died out?
What's that castle out there on the hill?
That's the famous Black Mirror Castle, ancestral home of the Golden family. There are few buildings here that have a history as fascinating and blood-soaked.
Why, what happened there?
Like,
What
even
didn't happen
even
there,
the
more
main
like
character doesn't
every
care
imaginable
about
abomination.
what is being said.
Murder, torture, witch burning, dark rituals, devil worship, everything.
Yeah, sure. And that's not just what you tell the tourists to make this place more interesting.
Well, perhaps it's not quite that bad, but what the people say is true. That castle is cursed. That much is certain.
Cursed.
Just look at the Gordons. An ancient family that's gonna die out. One blow of fate after the other. The latest events alone. Around 25 years ago, there was a fire in the castle, and Master Samuel lost his young wife in the flames.
So that would have been his
12 years
mother.
ago, the eldest Gordon committed suicide. He jumped from the castle tower.
That's where
After
the first
that
game
came
started.
Robert's murder and Samuel's suicide. The last surviving Gordon is Lady Victoria. She's already about 90. When she dies, one of the oldest families in England dies with her.
Sounds like bad luck, but not necessarily a curse.
It is. The castle is cursed.
So Lady
It makes
Victoria
the
is still
people
alive? Is
crazy.
that the same lady
How
from the
else are
first
you going
game?
to explain one Gordon after the other completely losing it?
Some mental illnesses are hereditary. And if it's an old noble family, incest may also play a role.
Yeah. Or natural radioactivity, or poisonous groundwater. That's all far-fetched. It's a curse. Everyone knows that.
What's that then? A soul key?
They are powerful, magical artifacts. After the murders 12 years ago, the police seized documents from the castle. Amongst them were also pictures of these soul keys. Samuel Golden must have been nigh on obsessed by them. The police believe that Samuel had several of them.
Perhaps the devil himself gave him the order to do it.
Perhaps. What's for certain is that he killed for it, and that the keys, assuming they ever existed, disappeared when he committed suicide.
And what has that got to do with this plastic trash?
That's no trash. Do you know how expensive it was to produce thousands of these and ship them here? Pal, that cost me a fortune.
Thousands? How many have you sold?
Put it this way, I won't need to reorder in the near future. Even though they're so fantastic, or they even light up when you put a battery in them.
Hey, now I have a reason
awesome.
for those batteries.
Couldn't you perhaps give me Angelina's room key?
If you buy the hotel and let me retire, then we can talk about it.
And if I forget a 50-pound note on the counter, would you go outside to look at the pretty pictures on it in the daylight?
Young man, this is a quality hotel. I can't and won't allow its reputation to be damaged.
No one will notice. There's not a soul here.
You can't bribe me, and that's that.
Thanks for the chat, Murray.
My pleasure.
Okay, well, 45 minutes have gone. That was a long conversation. It really felt like it didn't get us very far. Did I actually save there? Let's see. Save. Check. There's no confirmation box on the save. Interesting. Yeah. 50 minutes have barely gone by, and we didn't accomplish much. We got to the new area, and now we're just trapped in the hotel. Much like how we were trapped in the basement at the very beginning of the game. It's as if they're trying to retrain us on how to play point-and-click adventure games, which we really don't need that retraining. I don't know what they really could have done. Bringing us back to Willow Creek was going to be weird. I would have kind of preferred for everything to be different, or at the very least to start in a different area and then eventually get back to, say, the sanitarium. Being in the sanitarium and having it just be slightly changed is not a system that I think it's kind of middle of the road. We really need to speed up. I have that feeling, just like nothing was accomplished. And you can definitely see how this is probably a game that could have been 5 hours that got stretched into 15 hours. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, I'm asking people to friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have